and you guys can all hear us. We're going to start out today while people are just getting settled with asking you guys a poll question. We are wondering, as a little pop quiz just to get our brains working here, what the 5 major organs, or actually there are 6 major organs of detoxification are. And if you want, you can just enter it into the chat. If you can start thinking of them, either 1 or all 5, if you want to be a A+ student here. And while you guys are doing that, I just want to introduce myself and Dr. Rosalie de Lombaert, who's with us today. So I'm Dr. Molly Force. I'm the clinical director here at Prosper Natural Health. And these doc talks are things that we love to provide our community as ways to help you guys learn more about natural medicine. And today we're going to be talking about holistic cleansing and detoxing. And this is a really important component that we want to be thinking about, especially during the transitions of the seasons. And we'll be touching on that together today. So with the transitions of the seasons, it's a great time to be thinking about detoxing. And we're going to get into the ins and outs of what cleansing and detoxing is here in a minute. But we want to be thinking about this during these transitions because this is the time that our body is ready for shifts and changes. So when we think about detox, even just a few years ago when that word was used, people would immediately think about either alcohol or substance abuse, issues and trying to cleanse from that. But really, when we're talking about detox today, we're talking about ways that the body can eliminate toxins and really ways to help keep us balanced. And with health, that's one of the most important things that we're really working towards, which is balance. So why detox is so important, I know many of you already know this, but it helps us with the regulation of this balance, whether it be with nutrients coming in or our hormones. And there are many different ways to approach cleansing and detox. And one of the pieces that we want to have you guys take away today, while we're giving you some tips and some real life scenarios, is ways that you can be incorporating cleansing and detoxing to support your body's balance on a daily basis. But we also want to talk about ways to really focus in for periods of time to really support your system of elimination and detoxifying. So there are lots of problems that can come up in our bodies if we're not having our organs of elimination working properly, and if we're not going through cellular detox on a regular basis. So one of the biggest obstacles that a lot of my patients are talking about is weight management. And so we see with weight issues and being overweight and obesity that there is a really important component there of detoxification. The same is true for insulin resistance and issues with blood sugar management. So that's where we get into the diabetic realm. And we really want to, of course, stay away from blood sugar instability and issues with that. And one of the ways that we can help support that is to make sure that those organs of elimination are properly working and we're able to detoxify. So we see the same sort of thing with metabolic syndrome. Many of you could predict that cancer is something that has been correlated with disruption of our body's ability to cleanse itself. Fatigue is another major issue that comes up quite a bit in our practice. Fertility can be an issue for some people if they're experiencing problems with excess toxins or issues with eliminating those. Allergies, which is really, a major issue, especially here in the spring as all the tree pollen is being dropped. So we want to be thinking about ways to reduce our toxic burden. And we'll talk about that because that's why you guys are here today. And Then we also have found there's correlation with some neurologic issues, whether it be things like physical things like headaches, tremors, difficulty thinking, focusing, and then some mood disorders as well. So today we want you guys to walk away with some really nice strategies and some tips. So we're going to start by talking about the basics. Like before we get going into this, you need to understand how your body is supposed to be eliminating these toxins and these, potential triggers. So let's take a moment and just look at what the poll results here were.
So we got most of those organs of elimination. I think the liver and kidneys came out first, and then folks identified the lungs, the colon or GI tract, the skin, and one of you pointed out the lymph nodes as well.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So a lot of us immediately think about the detoxification route of the colon, so pooping to eliminate those solid waste products. So that, comes out top for a lot of people with kidneys, which is, helping us to eliminate the liquids. And we're going to talk about those in detail, of course, today. We also don't want to forget about our lungs and our skin, which has a huge surface area and is doing quite a bit of detoxification for us and has some powerful ways to excrete toxins. The liver is going to be a powerhouse of processing these toxins for us and helping to sort them to help them get out. And then we have the lymphatic system, which is often overlooked. So we're really excited to talk about that system with you today because it's absolutely critical here for our elimination pathways to be working. So let's start with the gut because we think about a large amount of our solid waste going through that system and coming out through our colon. It's really critical that we think about the gut not just for this waste elimination, but also for nutrient absorption. And we're going to find out about why that's so important when we're talking about proper cleansing here towards the middle of our talk. So we need to be able to bring nutrients in, which we're going to find out are building blocks for the ability for our body to do that proper sorting and cleansing and transportation of the toxins out. We also need to be thinking about what's going on with our healthy immune balance and our healthy flora balance in the gut. So often we are talking now about how our flora really does affect and shape our ability to not only absorb nutrients, but also manage our immune response, which is going to affect our elimination because it modulates our immune system and our inflammatory system. We also know that if we have intestinal permeability or issues with the lining of the gut, then that can really disrupt our ability to go through our normal transformation of these chemicals to get them out of our body. So with our intestinal system and our gut, we know one of our most powerful supportive agents for moving toxins out is fiber. Now, many of you guys know this, and it's really incredibly important to be getting that fiber in through our diet or through a supplement of some sort. And really with our patients, we're usually looking at between 25 and 35 grams, so averaging around 30 grams of fiber in our diet every single day. Now, what does the fiber do? It comes in and it's going to actually work as like a scrub brush to remove those toxins. And there's a very complex system here that happens at a microscopic level where we have these brush border enzymes that help us transport out these toxins and kind of deliver them up into the tube of the gut. But suffice it to say, it's like a big scrub brush of fiber that moves through and can grab toxins and pull them out as waste through the stool. So we also know in order for our gut to work, we have to have something called peristalsis or movement. So when we think about that, it's like a tube being squeezed, almost like a tube of toothpaste when we squeeze that. The same thing is true for the gut, and this is happening through our nervous system. So we know that that happens through the vagus nerve or cranial nerve 10. And this nerve is so very crucial for that peristaltic movement to get things out. One of the last things things we want when we're detoxifying is for stool to sit and reabsorb those toxic chemicals that are found in our poop. So we definitely do not want that. We want things moving and getting out. And then we also know that food sensitivities can be very problematic whenever we're trying to detoxify, but we're having a hard time getting chemicals out. And that's because of the inflammatory process that can happen from that. And those are typically being caused by proteins that are inappropriately tagged, that are actually food proteins that should not be tagged, and it causes this inflammatory cascade and can really affect things like our gut motility and our flora levels. So speaking of flora, we know that microbiome, that both the probiotics, the good healthy flora, and the prebiotics that feed them all affect our ability to detoxify and remove toxic waste. So one of my very favorite detox systems that is often overlooked, I'm going to jump right into because it's so closely connected to the gut, and that's the lymphatic system. So the lymphatic system runs right underneath our veins, and it's a separate system. It helps mobilize inflammatory products. It also helps circulate our immune cells. And I like to think about it, you can see it drawn here in green, almost like a highway system with different cities, different hubs, which are our lymph nodes, where a lot of the immune cells come together and communicate with each other and then send out, runners basically through those other highways to get to the ends of our, tips of our fingers and all the way down to our toes. So to get all the way throughout our body. Now, one of the important things that the lymphatic system does is it helps us remove excess fluids. We also know that it is a really important component for transporting our lipids and transporting our fat. And we also know that with the immune system being utilizing the lymphatic system as a tool to circulate through the body, we know that different white blood cells are utilizing these routes. So we can affect our ability to move lymph by physical motion. And one of the ways we do that is by actually moving our muscles. So we don't have a pump like the heart, which circulates these vessels. They're actually being circulated by compression and touch and the squeezing motion of our muscle fibers compressing them. So one of the reasons people like to say for lymphatic movement, it's good to do something like a rebounder or a gentle bounce is exactly that. So we're getting a gravitational movement with kind of a little shock absorption component that physically moves our lymph. Now, we're all mobile creatures. We need to be moving. So if there's some reason that you're not able to move due to pain or limitation, physical limitation, it's very critical for lymph movement that we have circulation happening either from gentle massage, some kind of compression, or some kind of passive range of movement that's being provided to us. So another important way to move our lymph is through sweating. There's tons system mobilize and for sweat production. Now, when we talk about sweat, we have to also think about the skin, which is one of our next eliminatory organs we're going to cover. But just remember that whenever we're sweating, our lymph is involved too, as far as our circulatory system. Now, with our lymphatic system, one of the components that I was trained in was homeopathic remedies. And we know that these can be helpful as well for mobilizing things through the lymph. And that's more of an energetic medicine piece, but it's a really cool tool. Dry skin brushing is a physical thing that you guys can do. You can do this on the cheap. You can do it yourself. You can do it right now even. It's as simple as providing touch stimulation to your skin. Now, there are many different schools of thought for dry skin brushing, but when we're thinking about the lymphatic system, we really want to be thinking about a light touch. So the way that I was trained in this is circular little motions, like little circles going from your distal extremities, the tips of your fingers, tips of your toes, in towards your thoracic duct, which is where most of our lymph ends up being processed. So we want to take these little circular motions, very light touch on the skin, and we want to help move that lymph in to be processed. So this is something that we can do before bed. It doesn't have to actually remove skin cells. It doesn't have to be a fancy brush. It can literally just be your hand or a dry washcloth to do this. We almost want a little tingling feeling. If any of you have felt that almost itchy kind of tingling feeling after doing light touch to your skin, that's the lymphatic system moving. And it's a good sign for us that we might have some stagnation in that area that we want to really continue to move. So lungs are our other big piece of the eliminatory puzzle that we want to be focusing on. This is going to help us, of course, with our exchanging of oxygen. Remember, our brain is needing not just sugar and stimulation, but also oxygen to work properly. It's going to help us with our balance in our body as far as our pH of our body. And it's, of course, really important for excreting all kinds of volatile chemicals. So we want to be really remembering that just taking focused exhalations and inhalations of clean air can make a huge difference for our body's ability to detoxify our waste products. So don't forget the clean air as being a really critical piece, and intentional breathing can be a really important piece. So this is where we like to talk about things like important breathing practices. You could even just put little Post-it notes up, either like in your house, or make little rules for yourself. Like, okay, when I go to the restroom, I'm going to take a moment and take a few deep breaths. But we also want to try, if we can, to incorporate our breathing practice into an outdoor activity. So that fresh air component provides us more, it's more than meets the eye. So it's not just, the beauty of being outside and connecting in with nature, but we also are getting these negative ions, which we know affect our serotonin system, help us to be happier humans. So really important to be getting outside, getting that fresh air, trying to, if you can, take advantage of helping your lungs get the clean components that they need to do their job. And we also, of course, need to be paying attention to what it is that we're breathing, especially if the majority of your time is spent indoors, either at a work location or at home. We need to be thinking, is there something toxic or something that could be triggering to me or to my inflammatory system that could be affecting my body's ability to eliminate through the lungs? Kidneys, which kind of came up as top on our poll here, is going to be a really important one when we talk about the different phases of elimination. It's going to help with the liquid phase. So when we're thinking about actually transporting toxins through the kidneys, we're talking about cleaning the blood. We have a huge amount of blood that is cleaned and circulated through the body. And the kidneys are really, of course, responsible for doing that. They're also managing the pH of our body, and several minerals are managed by our kidneys. So we want to make sure that we're supporting our kidney system as a really critical eliminatory system that's working every single second of the day for us. So one of the simplest ways to do that, which many of you already know, is to drink water. Now, knowing it and doing it can be two different things. So I have a lot of patients who say, I know I need my 8 glasses a day, or even better for most, we're often talking about half of your body weight in ounces. So, if you're 150 pounds, you're looking at about 75 ounces of water. So that's even a little bit more than our 8 glasses a day. And we also, when we're thinking about that, we're wanting to differentiate between liquids that have caffeine in them, which are diuretics. Those actually work on the opposite side of the equation for us. So we want clean drinking water. Now, this doesn't have to be boring, flat water if that's something that just does not do it for you. You can be putting small amounts of flavor, even things that are low calorie, like a sprig of mint, a slice of cucumber, a slice of celery, those kind of things into, or lemon, lime, those kind of things into your water. But we do want to really focus on that hydration. It's important also to be thinking about not just with that hydration of getting that flush coming in to get the water to be available so that we can dump those toxins and have them excreted out through our urine, but we also want to be thinking about ways to support the kidneys with antioxidants, because we know the kidneys are very affected by free radical damage when that happens for the body, and antioxidants help quell that. They help calm that down and transform those chemicals which can be damaging to the body and reduce that cellular damage. So one of the first things we often are thinking about when we're thinking about antioxidants are our colorful fruit like berries. So antioxidants and anthocyanins in particular in our dark colorful berries are a great thing to be including for your kidney health. Now, a lot of people have probably heard about cranberries for kidney health, and in the same family, we think about blueberries for the action. And what that does is it helps reduce the ability of bacteria to adhere to the bladder wall. And so it's pretty cool just including some of those berries into our diet, either as whole berries or even small amounts of juices. We don't usually want a whole bunch of fruit juice alone because that's devoid of the fiber and high in sugar, which can be pro-inflammatory, but small amounts, and then definitely the whole fruit can be phenomenal for helping reduce things like urinary tract infections, which of course will make it harder for the kidneys to do their jobs. So we also have listed on here beets and seaweed and lemon juice and spinach. And all of these are known to be supportive for kidneys. Now, the caveat there about spinach is it's full of nutrients, but it also ironically has something called calcium oxalates in it. And those can be really damaging if we have excessive amounts and we don't have the ability to get those oxalates out. We can form kidney stones. So everything in moderation, of course. Now, with herbs, this is the time of year, if you haven't already noticed, stinging nettle is coming up, at least here in the Pacific Northwest, quite a bit. So this is the time to be gathering very carefully with gardening gloves our stinging nettle, and we use the entire aerial part this time of year, which means everything above the ground, above the roots. And our stinging nettle can be used for teas. Some people like to make it into pesto. It can be used in different soups and blend it up. There are all kinds of different ways to do it, but we do usually cook it to get the stinging component to be more denatured and to have it not cause that irritation for the skin. So the stinging nettle in particular is going to be really wonderful because not only is it a gentle diuretic, which means it helps us pee and eliminate things through, but it also has those minerals, which are just so important for our kidney function. And then also burdock root is another one that's really well studied. So as far as our eliminatory organs, our next one on our list is skin. Skin has this huge surface area. And remember, it's not just what's going to be excreted out through the skin, but also what can be absorbed in. So skin works, we kind of consider it almost to be a secondary emunctory or eliminatory organ to our kidneys. So it's going to be involved in cleaning our blood products as well. And we know that our skin can be considered a general barometer for our health, the health of our bodies, just the appearance of it. A lot of times the body will try to push toxins out through the skin if the other core eliminatory organs are overtaxed. So what I'm saying there is if your colon or your kidneys or your liver become overburdened, we start to see disruptions in the skin. And we can see that with things like eczema, acne, certain rashes, hives, those kind of things can all be expressions of an overburden or the inability to remove histamine products in particular from our body, if those other eliminatory organs are overtaxed. So when we're thinking about that skin and thinking about it as a two-way system, we have to be questioning what is coming into our skin. And one really great resource, which is just amazing for my patients, is the Environmental Working Group's website. And on it, they have the ability to type in certain skin products and really find out what's in there as far as how they're graded, as far as how toxic they can be for the body. And once again, we're going to go over that a little bit more in a minute here, but we want to be thinking about, of course, non-toxic. There's so much of a consumer shift here over the last even 10 years in this, where people are really starting to kind of wake up to what is in their beauty products and question what's in this lotion that I've been using for years and years, because that is going to be affecting our body's chemical burden and how we can eliminate. So we also want to just really make sure we understand that sweating is okay. And not only is sweating okay, but it's actually really important as an eliminatory route. So we don't necessarily want to be using antiperspirants, for example. You can just imagine that blocking that organ of elimination can really cause problems for us. The other piece there is we want to be engaging in either movement, exercise, or activities like sauna that are going to be supporting the sweating activity. This can be really helpful for hormone balancing, we know, and one of the reasons that is because it helps us move those toxic products out and helps our cellular detoxification happen. So the liver, speaking of cellular detoxification, is kind of like the oil filter of the body. Unfortunately, we can't go in and change that every however many miles. We need to be really good to our liver because its job is to do that cellular detoxification. It's also involved in what we call synthesis, where it is helping to create and sort our proteins and our carbohydrates that are just absolutely critical for our ability to not only digest properly, but have the building blocks for our body and the ability for us to get things out of the body that we don't want in. And then it actually affects our storage. So the liver is going to be involved in sugar storage and how we store our lipids as well, and our vitamin storage too. So especially for our fat soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, these are all regulated through the liver. So the liver is a mighty organ and really takes the brunt of a lot of our detoxification process. Now, one of the pieces to think about with liver, many of you already know that when you do a basic yearly blood panel, we look at liver enzymes. And one of the things that we're often talking about with liver support that's kind of low-hanging fruit, frankly, at this point, is drinking and alcohol. We know that alcohol is hard on the liver. Now, why is that? So I just mentioned how important it is for carbohydrate synthesis and how it affects our sugar management. Now, alcohol is kind of damaging on two different levels. One, it's a really easy sugar. It comes in and is burnt up really quick. It's a big task for our liver to deal with that sugar spike that it provides. And then the other component is that it actually is physically damaging to the body, that alcohol. So it does the cellular damage piece and provides this extra component that the liver has to deal with, process, sort, and get rid of. We know that if we can reduce our alcoholic drinks, that makes a huge difference for us. And the same thing, of course, is true about drugs. Now, when we're saying drugs, we're not just talking about our, street drugs or illegal drugs. We're also including in there our pharmaceuticals, and even some really powerful natural medicines can be a burden to our liver. So we don't want to forget about those as being potential hard burdens. Even some of our over-the-counter medications that are really common in our society, whether it be Motrin, ibuprofen, Tylenol, Advil, Aleve, these sort of medications can be a big tax on our liver. So we want to kind of take stock, especially if we're thinking about cleansing and detoxifying and ways that we can really make the most impact. We want to say what's coming in, what could be damaging. And once again, that same thing is true about extra or excess vitamins and natural products. So we want to always say, do we have too much on board? Are they the right amount? Are they going to be doing what we want them to do? And that's one of the conversations we're constantly having with our patients, is we don't want to overburden their body's system to get things out. So the other component here, of course, is that we know that an anti-inflammatory diet is going to affect our liver, because once again, our liver is dealing with the sorting of those nutrients, and it's really helping manage the inflammation as a whole in our body. So we want to think, do we have too much sugar? Just in general, because that, remember, is going to tax the liver. And what happens is it builds more triglycerides. So if you've gotten your lipid panel back, your blood, cholesterol panel back, and you see those triglycerides over 100, that's really our optimal mark, because we want to see it under 100. So if you see it over 100, that's a little bit of a red flag for us that your liver is working way too hard here because of excess sugars. So that could be coming in the form of crackers or juice. It does not have to be, sugary candy from Easter, that kind of thing. It could literally be from too much carbohydrates that's happening. And we don't think about that necessarily directly affecting our lipid levels, our fat levels, but it has a direct impact because of this regulation and how it kind of really starts off in the liver, as far as those excess sugars build the triglycerides, and the triglycerides are going to affect our LDL cholesterol in particular and our HDL balance. So we really want to be thinking about that. The other component is that we can utilize different supplements properly to help our liver do more detoxification process. And we really want to be very specific about what we choose to support it with. And we're going to, of course, talk about that more. Now, I want you guys to understand that if we can decrease our toxic load, we have less work to do long term, and we're going to be able to move towards balance quicker. So that's a really important strategy. We can't just think about having these, intensive weeks where we're doing detoxing, but then going back to, toxic lifestyle, toxic habits that are just building, because they eventually snowball. And I love this bucket analogy, or a cup of water analogy, that we can fill it up and then at some point it starts to overflow. So I want you guys all to just take a quick second and think about your bucket right now. This is a great time to think about it, because not only is it a transition into spring here, where we're getting nicer days, nicer weather, but we're having this pollen dump. And for a lot of us, we know that our buckets are fuller than they should be coming out of the winter months, either because we're carrying too much weight this time of year, or we're having issues with the pollen, and that extra little inflammatory push makes it so our buckets start to overflow. We start to get runny eyes, nose, sneezing, hoarse throat, those kind of things this time of year from that little extra inflammatory push. So this is a great time to think about your bucket. So our job is to reduce the level of fluid, if you will, or toxins in that bucket, because it is inevitable in the world that we live in that you will be exposed to toxins. It happens. We know that babies are born with something like between 200 and 400 chemicals found in them at birth, which is just astounding. And we know that, our toxic chemicals are found all over the earth now at this point. So it's really important that we fortify ourselves by giving our buckets a little bit of space. And that's, I know, why you guys are here today. So toxins, many of you know a lot of these, but I just want to review them just so that they're on your radar. These things are all known in the medical literature to be toxic to the body, especially at high levels. So we have things like our flame retardants that come in on, sometimes even our bed sheets. We see these in our mattresses, of course, those kind of things, and our couches. We want to be really conscious consumers. Remember, we're voting with our dollar here. We want to be really purchasing things that are not only going to do less damage to you and your family, but also our community as a whole, as humans, and better, of course, for the earth. So, okay. We also have things like aluminums and different pesticides as well, insect pesticides, mold, fungicides can be incredibly damaging and toxic. We have, of course, things like our exhaust pollutants from cars, planes, anything that's really burning the fossil fuels. We have problems from cigarette smoke. We know that just a cigarette has over 400 chemicals in it, the standard cigarette. And then as far as mercury, we know that that's found in large amounts in our fish, and we are going to talk about heavy metal burden here in a bit too. Lead being a really important one that we find in paints and a lot of old construction. And then things like BPAs, of course, in plastics. We want to be thinking about moving away from those and definitely not doing things like heating or freezing them because that leaches out more of those BPAs, which we know are endocrine disruptors and affect our body's balance and ability to expel them. And then diesel fuels being problematic. It's kind of great in a way that everybody's wearing masks now when they're fueling their vehicles, because just those vapors can be very, very toxic. And remember, those lungs as organs of elimination, like the skin, it's a two-way street with that. And then as far as our fluoride in our drinking water and our toothpaste, there are healthy levels, but excessive amounts can be really problematic. And then we also have the, let's see, what else did I miss? We also have some of the other volatile compounds like ammonia and some other heavy metals we'll talk about here. So remember, these toxins equal inflammation in the body, and we know inflammation is the key to chronic disease. We do not want it. We want to really dampen it. It does cellular damage. It ages us quicker. It puts us at higher risk for chronic illness. So when we're thinking about this from a cellular perspective, remember, as naturopaths here at Prosper, we really like to kind of understand the physiology behind things. We have a problem when our cells are not able to get the nutrients in and toxins can't get out because there's too much of an inflammatory burden. And that's really the takeaway from, if your bucket is overflowing, it means we have a cellular problem and there's too much inflammation because now your body is giving you the symptoms that there's a problem. So especially when we think about these acute, which means temporary or immediate acting inflammatory events, things like chemical irritants or the pollen, that allergies, or an infection that causes that, those can quickly move over into the chronic inflammatory side if we are not supporting our body's elimination. And so that's where we start to look at more concerning issues like autoimmunity and cancer, cardiovascular disease, those kind of things, neurologic disease. So of course, we want to reduce that toxic load. So let's talk about some real life ways that you guys can do this. So our hack number one is organic food. Many of you already know that, but we want to make sure that we review because labels can be very confusing. So we know from the literature how important it is to have foods that don't have our pesticides, herbicides, Fungicides I'd mentioned earlier, they're some of the most carcinogenic, most toxic, hard for the body to get out, because those funguses and molds look so much like our own cells. The body really struggles with that one. So we want to make sure we're choosing those organic foods whenever possible. On the label, you may see something about GMO or non-GMO. That's the genetically modified organism. The important thing for us to remember there is that just because it's non-GMO, which we generally want, we don't want the GMOs, because we know that they affect our gut flora and many other potential issues as far as inflammation for the body. But we want to make sure that we're trying to get clean products as well. So just because it's labeled non-GMO doesn't necessarily mean it's devoid of the antibiotics or the pesticides or the growth hormones. So be aware of that. Be a savvy consumer in that regard. Now, many of you guys have probably heard of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And this is awesome. Once again, that environmental working group is a really cool nonprofit, and you can jump on their website and they provide this information for free every year. They compile all the research data and they say, what are the most concerning top 12 foods that you want to make sure you're doing as clean as possible? So we want to make sure that we have that we're really avoiding those top ones. And every year it changes a little bit, but it's been berries or apples for the last few years. So this year they just released this a few weeks ago. We see strawberries, spinach, kale, and our collard greens and our mustard greens being high, which is unfortunate because we think of those as superfoods, right? We think, oh, we're doing such a good job for our bodies, we're going to make sure we eat those. But actually, we know that the pesticides and chemicals that are involved in growing those, and even some of the fertilizers sometimes, can be toxic for our body. Now, we also see things like our stone fruits, like our nectarines and cherries, peaches, and then also things like our bell peppers, pears, celery, tomatoes. You guys can read the list here, but these are all foods that, if we can, we want to choose organic, because we know that they are our dirty dozen here. Now, the Clean 15 this year that got released shows avocados at top of the list, sweet corn at the top of the list. Now, our caveat here, remember though, guys, is a lot of our corn, last I checked, it was something like 90% or more, is a GMO. So we really want to think about that, because that affects our flora balance and our immune system balance quite a bit. So we do want to be considering that, but we know, at least, if you are having to eat these foods out at a restaurant and you just don't have a choice, these are safer options for you. So remember, when we're thinking about ways to eliminate toxins and reduce that load, that burden that we have there, our overflowing bucket, if you will, we want to make sure that we're choosing things with the least amount of pesticides and hormones. So thinking about, especially in our fats, that we're buying, like especially animal proteins and our animal fats, or animal organs in particular, we really want to get those as clean as possible, as far as organic or locally raised, with no exposure to those chemicals. And we want to also be thinking, if we are unable to get an organic version of those, to be able to do things like peeling our skin from our produce. That can at least take some of the toxin level down. Although remember, it's a lot of these fruits in particular are going to be sucking up all of those chemicals systemically in them. So it helps reduce some of the burden, but not all. We want to be thinking about cleaning our produce off, because we know that a lot of these pesticides that are sprayed are actually designed to biotransform whenever they're exposed to water. And so if they're supposed to go through our rain cycle, but if for some reason they haven't in the growth process, or they haven't been rinsed off, and it's a conventionally grown fruit or veggie, we run the risk of those pesticides being on there and not being bioconverted into what's been safe and deemed safe for human consumption. So we also want to, remove any of the damaged area. Think about what you're cooking with. Remember, our coating for our pots and pans can be really toxic, and we want to make sure, of course, that our drinking water is as clean as possible and filtered. Ideally, we don't want all of the minerals removed from our drinking water when we do that. So there is a balance there, but we do want to at least make sure that the chloride has been evaporated off or filtered out of our drinking water. And of course, we want to avoid any of our foods that have these synthetics. So, it was just Easter time. I've got little kids, so it's fresh on my mind. Those, when they come out with a sucker and they have the bright blue tongue, it's like, oh man, those artificial colors we know increase toxic burden. Now, cleaning up your beauty products, we kind of touched on this already, but it's just so important to do a personal inventory of what you're putting on your skin, hair, even nails. These are all going to be absorbing into our body and affecting that toxic burden level. So do a review. If you have a question about a specific product, go on the Environmental Working Group's website, type it in. It's really cool. They even grade it for you, which is really nice. Now, we also want to be thinking about cleaning products. A lot of times this gets overlooked, or we get in the habit of using a certain cleaning product because maybe it smells good or feels fresh to us. Air purifiers, scents, those kind of things can be incredibly toxic. So we want to be thinking about using the basics. There's great resources for this online. Many DIY recipes for this kind of thing. I'll tell you, for me, at my house, we're using vinegar and water in a simple spray bottle. I use about 2/3 vinegar to 1/3 water, and just use that for cleaning most of my surfaces, which is just awesome. So look at your ingredients and try to do it simply. It's cheaper and it'll be cleaner for your body. And when we think about foods, they're so important because remember, what we're putting in is affecting our genes. It's chemical information that's affecting our genes, telling us, are we going to inflame, or are we going to, basically absorb these good nutrients and have more of an anti-inflammatory positive process. So we want to think about this as with foods. When we have toxins coming in, we have to go through 2 major phases of detox to bioconvert those toxins out. So when we have a toxin coming in, and this is going to actually not even be just with foods, it can be the skin, it can be lungs, whatever it is, it's going to be circulating in our phase 1 toxification. We need different chemicals in our body and our liver in particular to help us biotransform that so it can get into this phase 2, and then that can be biotransformed, and then the toxins can go out. So this gets into the nitty-gritty of the biochemistry. We love this kind of thing because it helps us understand where certain problems can go wrong. For you guys, what I want you guys to understand, though, is there's a lot of chemicals that go in, good building chemicals, nutrients, and antioxidants that go into the detoxifying process. And the reason this becomes so important is when we talk about fasting and detox, there are many different forms and different ways to go about it. And a lot of times people don't necessarily have the nutrients that they need to support a healthy detoxification. And so when we're thinking about this, we really want to make sure that we have these products and nutrients that help us biotransform through both the phase 1 and the phase 2 system, which will allow us to actually urinate and defecate these toxins out. So, and the other piece there I should say is you can see kind of the 2 different systems. We've got like the water soluble and the solid waste products that go out. So of course, as water soluble, we're thinking more about kidneys and skin. And then the solid products, we're talking about having the liver and with the bile helping that break down and going through the colon. So as far as things to be thinking about for a healthy detox plan, I should caveat this with I've been leading detoxes and cleanse groups now for over 10 years. So I've gotten to see what works and what doesn't. And one of the biggest pitfalls is people not getting enough of the nutrients which are required for that phase one conversion to get into the phase two. And they just have their toxins essentially circulating. So we want to make sure that we're not only opening up the doors of elimination, like opening up the door before we take out the trash, but also making sure that we have the nutrient transporters to get those toxins out. So, of course, number one, we're still working on reducing our overall toxic burden, that bucket. So we want to reduce any food triggers. So if you know you have a certain food trigger or something that feels inflammatory to your body, or maybe you've even done blood testing to find out what food triggers you have, that's something we do quite a bit with our patients. That kind of tool could help you know if there's something that's going to be inflaming your system and make it harder. So we got to remove that first. We also, of course, want foods that are going to be really supporting our liver function. So when we're thinking about that, we're not only thinking about our clean and organic seasonal foods, but we're also thinking about things that can help the liver, like artichoke hearts and beets and lemon and parsley and these kind of things that can provide nutrients that the liver needs to do that detoxification. You'll notice in this basket of food, there's lots and lots of colors. So eating the rainbow is absolutely crucial here, and that's because the phytonutrients that are involved. So lots of different vitamins and antioxidants are coming in when we're having the variety of colors in our diet. So look at your plate when you're trying to do really clean eating and trying to do a detox. We want to make sure that we're not starving ourselves, we're getting the nutrients in, and that we're choosing a variety of colors. So make it fun when you go to buy your produce, at the market or at the grocery store. Make sure that you are choosing a variety of different colors. It's not only better tasting, but it's going to provide you with those really important nutrients. We also want to make sure that we're really targeting our antioxidants, and that comes with the colors, remember, a lot of times. So thinking about those berries, and the blue and purple foods, and then also things like our red and orange foods for like the things like the beta carotenes. So when we're detoxing and cleansing, this is not a calorie specific diet. It's not all about cutting calories. It's really important that we have those proper nutrients so we can continue that phase one, phase two detoxification crank. We don't want to stall out in that cycle. But that being said, a lot of our patients do end up losing weight and having weight management improve while they're doing these detoxes, because they're mitigating inflammation and they're moving toxic burden out that was causing fluid retention and all kinds of problems with their lipid and blood sugar system. So we want to, of course, continue to move things out. And as we do this, we find our hormones start to really rebalance, which is better sleep, things like that. That can come on board from it. So as far as our heavy metals is something I promised you guys I would talk about. There are many different ways to look at this. We can do things like blood tests for it, which is that MELISA, the ELISA, and then the provoked urine test is another one, and then hair analysis. Now, for our practice, we're tending not to do hair analysis because a lot can happen to your hair. Even if you don't color it, there can be a lot of external factors that influence your hair. So a lot of times, if we really want to know what somebody's toxic burden is in regards to heavy metals, because we know they can disrupt all kinds of issues in the body, different things in the body, we are doing something called a provoked urine test, where we're actually giving a chelator, which is something that grabs onto the metals and transports it out of the body. And we're collecting urine before and after the chelator process is given. And And it's all very, calculated as far as volume of urine and the amount of chelator that's given. So it's only done under physician supervision. And the reason for that is, once again, if you don't have your doors open and you start taking out the trash, just imagine if you did that at your house. It would be a huge mess. So the same thing is true for the heavy metals. If we get a chelator on board and stuff is starting to redistribute in the body, we get a problem. The body is wise. It tries to store those toxins in stable places. So fat is a big one. That means our brain can be affected, because think about the fat deposits within our brain, the healthy fat deposits. And we also have major problems whenever we are redistributing those and don't have that ability to remove it. So we have to be careful, even with those provoked urine tests, to do that with a physician. And the ELISA is a blood test that looks at heavy metal sensitivity. So this is kind of interesting. It looks at our immune system's irritation level with certain heavy metals. There are some people who've tagged heavy metals, the protein, their immune system has tagged them as unsafe. And every time they see that metal, they go through an inflammatory process. So that can be a really helpful thing for us to know. So as far as types of detoxification, like I said, we've done a lot of these with patients, and there are many different types. So there's a chelation type, where we can be giving, as physicians, we can be giving a chelator, whether it's natural or something like a chemical, to help bind those those heavy metals and pull them out. But once again, that can be pretty intense and damaging even to those organs if not done properly. There can be different cellular detox programs that are given. Specifically, a lot of those will have different supplements to help us with that phase 1, phase 2 detoxification. We know that sauna and those kind of heats can be helpful. There's some research that their fasting can be helpful, but within limitation, right? So things like intermittent fasting, where it's short periods of time, can be really helpful, but we need to make sure we still have those nutrients on board. We find that fasting for long periods of time, if we're doing it for detox in particular or cleansing in particular, can actually really be very harmful for people, once again, because they get stuck in between that phase 1 and phase 2 of detoxification. Exercise, we know, can be a really important way to help with detoxing. Different colonic regimens. There's some conflicting evidence on how helpful this can be, but it can be helpful to remove solid waste. We know that, of course, clean eating and clean food choices is going to be a critical piece. And then are certain supplements that we know are organ specific that help. So one of the things that we have developed here as naturopaths is we've partnered with Designs for Health, which is a really cool physician grade supplement company, to create a program which you can use online. And the reason we've done this is, for years we've been hosting these 14-day detox groups, which have been really, really fun. But with COVID, it's been really hard, to get people together. So we want this to be something that people can still have access to and to be affordable too. So what we've done is we have created an application that comes on your phone or your tablet. And what it does is you can sign up for it, and it will provide you with not only the foods and the recipes that you'll need, but also options for getting different supplements that can be helpful for the detox process. It also gives you the ability to track your progress, and there's an accountability piece with this. So if you decide to work with us physicians with it, you can, and we can help you with that. So we tried to make this very affordable for people, and a tool for you guys if you want it. So it's available there. So it's the 2 different tiers are $37 if you want all the information and you're ready to just get going with it. And what that provides you with is all of the information with the nutritional component and those shopping guides, etc., but also the things like the exercises, breathing exercises, and that health tracker. And then if you need that extra support throughout our office as Prosper, we have the ability for you to do the $87 tier. And what that allows you to do is, through a HIPAA compliant part of the application, message us questions and let us know if you need any extra support there. And, we really like to check in and just make sure that people are doing well and are getting the results they're looking for with these programs. So we're really excited about this because here we are at spring. This is the perfect time to do this kind of thing. You download it and then it gives you all of the basis for what you need. And it allows you to do that tracking. So this is just kind of what it looks like. It provides you with those recipe plans, your daily guides, your shopping list. And then if you'd like to, there's also the supplement component. Now, these are an optional component. Don't feel like you have to do it, but it does provide that extra layer that will help you with making sure that you have those nutrients to really support the phase 1 and phase 2 detox. This is an example of some of the documents which you get to keep after your 14 days are done even, and it provides you with different things like the workouts and nutritional information. So you could repeat this if you wanted to. Now, as far as the videos, it's the same thing. You can continue to have those. If you decided to use supplement products, what we've decided to use are this 14-day easy packets called Veggie Cleanse Plus. What I like about this is it really contains all of those nutrients and antioxidants that are going to be required without being too aggressive of a product. So it's very effective, but it should not make you feel sick. It shouldn't make you feel like you're having diarrhea or, ill, nauseous, or anything like that from it. So the way these are designed to be taken is one packet in the morning and one packet in the evening, or if you're doing intermittent fasting, it would be one at lunchtime and one at dinner. So what they have in them and what you're really wanting to look for when you're choosing good, clean detoxification products are things that have our methylation products to support our biotransformation in phase 1 to phase 2 component of our liver transformation, and those antioxidants to help with the cellular detoxification. And then we want to make sure we have a good probiotic on board because those are so critical for managing our inflammation and managing our gut flora and how our nutrients are being absorbed. So if you decide to go in and do this program, what you'll see is the ability to add on those supplements, and you'll just go under your plan, you'll see the supplements listed, and then you'll push by. It takes you to a third-party page, and we're just letting you guys know that because now we have 4 different programs, and so we've had a lot of questions. How do I access my supplements? And what happens is Designs from Health ships them directly to your door, which is really handy right now with the COVID process. And so you order it straight through that application. Now, when you're picking your start date for this kind of thing, it's really important to give yourself a few days because you're going to need to look at the shopping list, get that food, and then clean out your cupboards. So give yourself a few days to really prepare. If you know that you want to do something like the supplements, you'll want to make sure that you have plenty of time to get those mailed to you. So perhaps give yourself a week or 2 before your start date. But anytime you're doing a cleanse, whether or not you do our online program or not, really set aside that time and make sure that you can give yourself a little bit of a physiologic break from your stress levels. Because remember, stress also contributes to our toxic burden. So we want to make sure that we're really being conscientious about the timeline that we're choosing for it. So no major events during that period of time. So if you want to go ahead and look into our program, Dr. Rosalie is going to post the link to it. It's found on our website right under the program system, but she's going to put the link in our chat area. So we hope that you find it to be a really supportive option for you guys. And we just want to remind you all that detox is really a chance to give your body a reset. So it's a chance to really help get the right nutrients in. For us, we don't want to be doing, major intensive fasting or major intensive workouts during that time. We want to not just remove the toxic burden, but we also want to replace it with really supportive, nutrient-rich foods. So that's how we can really get into the deeper deeper level here. So we'd love to take some questions. So if you have any questions for us, feel free to type them into the chat. And we also want to invite you guys to our next Doc Talk, which is going to be the second Tuesday in May. And it's going to be about allergies, which is very time appropriate right now. So make sure that you join us for that. And we're looking forward to it. So do we have any questions? Let's see. Dr. Rosalie, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just that with the Ayurvedic piece that I bring in with the Ayurvedic medicine, fasting and cleanses have been a huge part of that medical practice for many years. So there's a lot of different ways to do cleanses, and perhaps some of you have done a khichdi mono diet in the past that's very much from the Ayurvedic perspective, or have taken some cleansing teas. This is a kind of a far-reaching concept.
So I failed to mention that Dr. Rosalie specializes in Ayurvedic medicine as well as being a naturopathic physician here. So she's got that extra layer of the East Indian perspective for herbs that can help with detoxification, as well as lifestyle practices, because it is so integrated into that system of medicine. It's pretty powerful. So one question that we're getting here is in regards to online or food sensitivity tests. So there are a lot of food sensitivity tests available. I will say that we're pretty picky here at Prosper. We kind of view ourselves, I mean, we definitely view ourselves as, trained physicians that are fairly scientific. So we really want to make sure that what's available is being held up in the scientific literature for our patients and for our clients. So what we use is we only use ELISA testing for food sensitivity. And we've done this probably with thousands of patients at this point. And it's pretty cool because it's very reproducible. Now, with food sensitivity testing, what we're usually looking at is IgG sensitivities. So those are really tricky to pinpoint. It could be that you eat the food and you don't have a reaction for a good 72 hours. So you might eat, a thing of yogurt in the morning on Tuesday, and then it might not be until Thursday that you get a little bit mucousy or get an upset stomach or something like that, or get some skin inflammation. So it can be hard to pinpoint. So we utilize blood tests for that. So it's something that we like to have our patients come in and do a blood draw, because those are specialty tests. There are some scheduling components of that. Like, we want to make sure that most of our patients are fasting for those, because excess cholesterol levels can really affect those, the accuracy of that testing. So yeah, finding out your food sensitivities is actually a really critical component, I would say, of really supporting the colon and your GI system as an eliminatory organ. So that was a really good question. And then we have another question about whether or not those food sensitivities can be delayed. So yes, they can be delayed. So when we talk about food sensitivities, I should also just mention these are not food allergies. Remember, those allergies usually show up right away. That's IgE mitigated. So what we're typically looking at is IgG, which is a systemic antibody that goes throughout the whole body and can be a delayed response. And IgA is another one we look at, and that one is patrolling our mucous membranes. So everything from your nose to eyes, sinuses, and we're going to talk about those more when we talk about allergies, because even though those are not considered classic allergies, they're inflammatory events that are mediated by our immune system. So they're in that same category. So we'll get even more into that. That's its own topic that we're going to talk about in May. Any other questions today? Well, thank you guys for joining us. We just love doing these, and we're looking forward to seeing you next month. And we look forward to chatting with many of you through the app, through the Well World app, through our detox program. So Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys next time.